and welcome to the June work session. It looks like we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Dr. Hooker, would you like to start us off with roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. We'll start out with Ms. Heidi Hensley.
Here.
Ms. Claudia Butts. Ms. Linda Davis.
Here.
Dr. Patricia Yeager.
Here.
Mr. Tim Denton.
Here.
Dr. Mumby Anderson.
Here.
Dr. Lakeisha Gant. Ms. Nicole Hull. Mr. Mark Evans.
Here.
Wonderful. It looks like we absolutely have a quorum, so we will go ahead and move forward to the board president report. And other than the update for the sustainability committee, I don't have any additional board updates. So at our regular meeting, if you don't mind giving a advisory committee update. I think there were a couple of members that you wanted us to review, Dr. Yeager, and so that can all happen at the regular board meeting, if that's okay? Yes, yes, the one person that you put that, yes. And if you could, if you haven't already had a chance to, do you mind sharing that person's resume with the full board? Oh, okay. Oh, fantastic, okay. So just so the board is aware, there's at least one person who reached out to the Sustainability Committee asking to become a member of that committee, shared their resume, and Dr. Yeager has forwarded it to the entire board. So between now and 7, if you do have an opportunity to take a few minutes to review, we can have that conversation during the board updates at 7 o'clock. But other than that, I have no other president's reports. Dr. Evans and Mr. Denson and Ms. Davis had an opportunity to go to GSBA last week. So if there's anything you'd like to bring forward to the board or update to the board, you're more than welcome to do that at this time.
I'll just say, when the delegate representation voting, we elected the new officers of the board and enacted our policy committee. It was pretty non-controversial, but I'm happy to give specifics if anybody has questions about specific policies.
All right. Dr. Evans, Ms. Davis, anything to report back?
So again, the difference in GSBA and COSBA are really intentionally so. COSBA as a national presence, I had an opportunity to meet people from across the nation. And I think I reported then that, people that had already gone through the whole voucher program issue and the ones that have been in it for a while. And so the reports from them varied. So we did have a little bit of discussion at some of my tables that I was with about the voucher bill passing in Georgia. And so people are still wary about that, and we don't know what's going to happen as a result of that. If it's like it's been in other places, the biggest challenge was when people took the vouchers and took their kids out of the public school system and it didn't work out, and then they came back without the vouchers and without the support. So those are some of the things I think that as a board and as a community we would want to look at to see how we would mitigate a change like that. And then finally, on the last day, I did get the opportunity to participate in the Friday morning devotional that was started by Mr. Vernon Payne, our board member of 40 years here, and that is still a very strong part of just taking time to have conversations and hear messages that help unite us and move us forward. So that was very enlightening. Then Saturday morning at the keynote speaker, we did have I cannot believe I don't remember this young man's name, but he is a former University of Georgia player. And he told his family's story. He's a second-generation immigrant, and he spoke to the challenges that our kids are facing when they are in a different place. So it was very appropriate, and I do hope that I didn't download his presentation, nor did I buy his book, but those are two things that I will do to share with the board before I forget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis and Mr. Denson. Oh, Dr. Evans, it looks
It was Rennie Curran, the former UGA football star. Yeah, Rennie Curran. and all around super nice guy. I think one of the things that I really got out of the conference was they had this speaker, I believe his name was Underwood. Yeah, Chuck Underwood, who came and talked to us about the generational differences, like how we are trying to govern with 6 living generations at one time, and how we don't really understand one another because we all come at problems from different ways. And so I thought that was a really helpful, I'm not sure an 800-page book, though, is something I want to dive into to really get into what he was talking about. But as far as his presentation went, it was, I think, for me, it was very enlightening, and I think Ms. Davis and we talked a great deal about it that Friday night, about how, how we can communicate better with our constituency, especially when, we still have, people from the Depression who are still around, and, and how they deal with issues is much different than a Gen Xer like me. So anyway, I thought it was a wonderful time and experience, and it was also good to just be with the fellow board members outside of this confine.
All right, thank you so much, y'all, for updating us on the activities that the rest of the board missed, and hopefully we can all attend together at some point in the near future. All right, we will now move on to item 4, facilities updates, starting with our operations update, and I'm not sure who's, okay, Mr. Gilbert.
Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Stacy Collins, and I believe Mr. Collins will start us off, and then Mr. Gilbert will give us the SPLOST monthly update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm standing in for Mark Bailey. I want to just talk about Whit Davis. We're removing the portables classroom from Whit Davis Elementary School upon disconnection of utilities. These classrooms will be auctioned off through the Office of Purchasing and Contracts. The plan is to sell the trailers where they sit and have the buyers to have the trailers moved. Whitehead Road Annex, we will have the main distribution breaker changed this summer from the 1,000 amp main breaker pressure switch with an 800 amp disconnect. Current painting projects for this year, we got Cleveland Road, ELC West, Gaines, Clark Central, First Floor, and Howard Beach Drive for summer 2024 projects. Asphalt repair, seals, and striping is Cleveland Road, Fowler Drive, Barrow, Rutland, Howard Beach Drive, Winterville, Clark Central, Paradise, and the Board of Ed, fall 2024 projects. Training, each year the Clark County School District sends a group of our technicians to the learning workshop. This topic is, the topic in the workshop aligns with our everyday duties and are indicative of what we see in the field. These workshops are specific in their trade and are taught by seasoned professionals, and a few classes are taught by vendors. This year, CCSD is sending 7 students and 2 teachers, which the students are like the technicians that work for the plant service. Is there any questions?
Ms. Davis?
Are the students under apprenticeship or are they employees?
They're employees.
Okay.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Are they also in school?
What? No, these employees are in the district that does work for us.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you said student. I was thinking.
Yeah, well, they said students, but they're technician that works for plant service,
Okay.
district service.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. When I looked at those trailers, was there a value of about $1,000 on each one of those? Is that what we see that? Are they depreciated to that point?
I'm not sure on that, but I can get the correct amount for that. I'm not sure if it's 1,000, or it could be less, but I'm not sure.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, Dr. Yeager?
So I know we bought some trailers recently for some of the other schools. Is there no reuse of the trailers at Whit Davis? Or it's better to sell them, get rid of them, and then buy new ones for the other purposes? John, you're nodding.
Yeah, if you can answer that one, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the age of the trailers at Whit Davis is probably 15-plus years, so they've had their useful lifespan. And so any new trailers going forward, we typically rent those on a short-term basis.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But are they for sale, or are we?
Yes, they'll be for sale.
Yeah.
Veronica will probably have them on Gov Deals, and we'll, have an auction for them or sale for them.
Do they have any hazardous materials in them that we
No.
would be responsible for removing?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
All right, barring any questions, thank you so much, Mr. Collins.
You're welcome.
All right, up next, and Mr. Gilbreth. And up next, I think Mr. Gilbreth is going to give our SPLOST report.
Yes. We've got a series of pictures for you, so it's going to be a video update tonight, and then interject with any questions. So we'll start with Classic City Health Center. Demolition has been complete, and we're in the process of framing walls. Met with MedLink this week to go over electrical outlet placements. Plumbing roughing is in progress, as is electrical, with the intent on getting this facility operational by mid-August. I think our deadline is October 1st to see patients, and so we're shooting for that time frame. I don't have to say the personnel that are over at Classic City have been troopers, because we've been jackhammering, sawing, saw cutting, and it's been noisy and messy, and they've tolerated us quite well. So I appreciate that. Biomanufacturing, we've got work going on at H.T. Edwards for these rooms. Again, demolition is complete. They're in the process of saw cutting for new electrical, plumbing rough-in, getting ready for that. And we hope to have this room ready August 1st for students. One other project we're doing in 15 of our facilities is replacing the old smart boards that are in the school. So this is a photo of the old smart board, and we're upgrading it with the new standard 5x12 whiteboard and projectors as well. So the next slide shows you, this is a before, and so the next slide will show you an after. So we're going in, a new board, painting, scroll back up, Lisa, if you don't mind. So that you get a new board, a new projector mount, and a freshly painted wall up front. And then another before picture. So this is an elementary classroom that has a lot of stuff in the front of the room. We asked all the teachers to remove it so we could put in a new board, projector, new fresh coat of paint, and then they'll come back in the fall and decorate their classroom, get ready for students. Cedar Shoals, work is progressing out there. We've got demolition going on at outside of the ag science area. The expansion of the cafeteria, footings have been poured. We're expanding 1,000 square feet on either side. These are the new VRF exterior units that are being set that feed the classrooms. Took out the PTACs, have VRFs in there. This is the clearing and grading and prep for the new tennis court area down by the practice field and the baseball field. And this is kind of a typical photo of the demolition that we do first, tearing out the ceilings, lockers. And then the next photo, we're starting to rough things back in, painting's going in place. This is the cafeteria demo, and we're already framing ceilings, putting HVAC back in there. And again, this is all going to be shooting to be turned over August 1st. This is kind of a teacher workroom, finish area, new carpeting, flooring, lights, LED lights, VRF systems. We're freshening up the bathrooms, recoating the floors, new fixtures, paint. And this is a typical classroom with the new finishes going in. The bleachers are complete, so we have new bleachers installed. We're kind of jumping around, catching areas where we can, where there's no students or staff, and getting that work done. Clark Middle, If you've driven by there lately, demolition is in progress. We were able to get the trailers removed and staff items moved into the building. You can see that this is probably about a week old, but we started demolition on the A and B wings, some demolition on the roof, cafeteria roof. This is a aerial photo that shows you the new building, media center, cafeteria. The soccer field now has sod installed, and they're watering it daily. You've got your barn and your ag area being installed, as well as your bioretention pond. And again, landscaping is going in, so we're making good progress on getting this one done. Adaptive ed playground items, equipment's been installed. We have concrete that's been poured, and then we'll have pour and play on top of that. This is your main corridor lobby coming in. We've got flooring left to go in there. Finished paints in progress. This is the cafeteria. All the furniture has been delivered for the school and is being distributed throughout the school and assembled. Kitchen equipment installations in progress, almost complete. Media center, this is all the new furniture and all for the media center, bookcases. One of our learning stair areas finished. And your typical corridor with lockers, paint. Again, 3-story, we're looking good, and we're putting furniture together. Utility-wise, water meter has been installed. So once we get the sewer hooked up for the upper level, we'll be able to turn the water on for the entire facility. Again, this is, I think, the orchestra room, sound panels, equipment, furniture installation in progress. So we're looking good there. Any questions?
Okay, there it is. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Davis?
Thank you. I'm excited about some of this. Okay, but now honestly, if I had thought about this earlier, I would have written earlier. But I've had the experience of leaving Cedar Shoals after an event. It's sitting on 75 acres. Is there any way we can relieve that traffic congestion exiting that facility?
You have 2 ways in and out of Cedar. You got the lower exit entrance and you have the upper entrance. We are opening up an entrance at the baseball field. So for football games and being able for away opponents to park, we'll have an area below the baseball field. There'll be additional parking and access from there. It's trying to do another loop and drive. We would really have to investigate and get creative on that. I know security is an issue with students leaving campus or non-students coming on campus. So that's something that we could look at and talk to security and administration and kind of see what options are available.
I just heard so many complaints from so many people about how long it takes to get there and an hour to get in to be able to park and then an hour to be able to leave.
Yeah.
And again, with 75 acres, and I've gotten smart. I go down to Whit Davis and come in that way because it just saves you an hour. And so I'm looking for us to maybe consider that. I didn't know you guys had done your planning for that already.
I think we can talk to our police department and obviously work with the traffic control so that when we do have events, we can get the lights timed or control the lights so that we can, like at dismissal time, let all the buses go at once and try to get, a greater flow of traffic coming out. And I think, I'll get with Chief Reed and his guys and see what we can come up with for that.
Yeah, I figured out if they could shut down Baxter Street, we should be able to get traffic in and out of Cedar Shoals.
Okay.
So I'm hoping we can do that.
All right.
Okay. Are there other questions? And so you still have a proposed timeline of getting the teachers in there a couple weeks before classes start?
Right, we're looking at, I think, the 22nd is, I believe, what we're telling Clark Middle folks. So that's, I believe they don't have to report till the 25th, 26th. We may be able to get them in there sooner, but I think the 22nd is reasonable. Everything is there, and it's just a matter of getting it put together. The challenge I have is safe access to the building. Coming off of Dudley, no problem. The main entrance, the main entrance up front is going to be my challenge this summer, getting the demolition done and enough of the parking and the loop for Alps and the sidewalk coming in. That's our biggest hurdle right now that we're facing. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Gilbreth and Mr. Collins, for your updates. All right, we will move forward to item 5, business items for discussion for the consent agenda. I guess the most efficient way to do this is to go item by item, and if you would like the item pulled from consent agenda, please raise your hand high so that Dr. Evans is able to take a tally and just go ahead and let Ms. Palmer know to remove the item, and then we'll just go down the list until we get to the end. Is that all right? Okay. So let's start with A, May 9th, 2024 work session and board meeting minutes. Pull? Okay, keep. B, Cedar Shoals renovation Phase 2 GMP contract. Keep. C, CCSD Student Support Center furniture purchase. Keep. D, custodial equipment for various schools. Keep. E, school nutrition contract renewals, I think that's supposed to be FY 25. Okay, thank you. FY 25. Keep. All right. F, AV equipment purchase for CCSD Student Support Center cafeteria and gym and Cedar Shoals upper A and B wings. All right, we'll keep it. G, public safety radio BDA system, CMS and Cedar Shoals. We will keep it. H, replacement of power supply purchase. Replacement power supply purchase. Keep. I, personnel.
Hold on for a second, Dr. Anderson. Ms. Davis, did you want to pull it?
Okay. I. All right.
What, I or H?
Personnel. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Palmer, let's pull I, please. All right. J, job descriptions. And this is for the communications director. All right. Keep. Separate. Pull, please. All right, so far we've got I and J pulled. K, substitute staffing services. Pull. L, staffing agency approval for special education staffing. Keep. M, SRO contract with ACC Gov for 24-25 school year. Keep. N, replacement of flooring, Office of Early Learning. Keep. O, 23-24 early Head Start and Head Start budget amendment. Keep. P, 2024-25 early Head Start cost of living adjustment increase. Keep. Q, school bus purchase for 24-25. Pull. R, field trips. Keep. Ms. Palmer, do you mind giving us a record of what we've pulled?
I, personnel. J, job description. K, substitute staffing services. And Q, school bus purchase.
Okay, thank you so much. Does that sound about right? Perfect. All right, we will now move to item 6. Wait, did we go back and talk about those items here?
Should we talk about the pulled
That's what we
items?
pulled. Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
I'm consulting with my VP here. All right, so we are going to first start with, do we want to start with I, or was that just a separate vote that you wanted, Ms. Davis?
Yes, I do want us to always consciously have that separate vote, and I'm sorry I didn't do a synopsis of my concerns, but yeah, the separate vote will at least allow me a couple more minutes to look at that.
Okay. All right, substitute staffing services, floor is open.
Did we do job descriptions as well?
Oh, did we do job descriptions? I thought we approved, that's on consent.
I have I, J, K, Q.
It was pulled? Okay. All right, okay. Job descriptions? Ms. Davis, did you
No,
pull?
I don't think I pulled that one, but yeah.
You didn't pull that one?
Oh, I don't know, maybe I did. What
Can we
are the,
place it back on consent? That's for the communications director position.
It was just that one, or were there two?
It was only one, and there was a detailed description of that placed in the Friday's update.
Oh, the school-based health center coordinator position and the communications director position are both of the positions on there. Would you like to keep them on the consent agenda or pull?
So I'd like to, I pulled, the pull was there because of I had questions about the cost of the new, the school-based health position. So I'm looking for a total cost of that new project, and if that was included in the previous approval.
Dr. Scott, will you speak to that, please, ma'am?
So the school-based health center coordinator position is not a part of the grant funding for the actual school-based health center development. This is a position that would be funded through the Medicare funds that we receive. And so it would be a coordinator position to make sure that we have someone who is able to ensure that we're meeting all grant requirements, to make sure that we are coordinating and collaborating with our partners around that, but then also to help us with grant writing to expand our opportunities around the healthcare centers that we're offering.
So how does that then change the cost of implementing the new facility at that building?
It does not impact the cost of the funds that have already been set aside for the facility. It's a whole separate funding source.
So it's not included in the previous approval for the health center at that facility? This is in addition to what was already approved?
That position didn't exist as a part of what you all previously approved. It was, what was previously approved was not personnel, it was just to open a health center. And so the staffing of the health center is through MedLink.
I'm not sure I understand. So is that coming out of the general fund to fund those positions, or?
No.
Okay.
MedLink is
So
taking
we're not
care-
paying it, it doesn't cost the district anything more?
No, not with
for
our
the
partnership with
staffing.
MedLink. We are not having to pay them anything.
Okay. That was my question.
The coordinator position is separate from that.
And we are paying that position?
We're paying for that
So that's in
through-
addition to our head count, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I didn't see a cost associated with that. So we won't do it specifically now, but I would like to see that because I think it's relevant to that whole.
Yes, so it would be on the coordinator pay scale, and that position would just be dependent upon their years of experience and where they would fall on that pay scale. But it would be on that 220 coordinator pay scale. But again, it would be dependent upon who's hired for the position and where they would fall on the scale.
Would you like to keep this item on the consent agenda or continue to pull it?
I just need the answer. So if I can get the answer and it still be on consent, that's fine.
Okay, so if what I hear, Dr. Scott, is she would like the pay scale for the coordinator position, and if we can get that before 7 o'clock, we will keep this item on the consent agenda. Thank you so much.
So
All right.
It really wasn't just the pay scale, it was the cost of the facility. So whatever number we had before, if we can add that new cost to it, then I'll have a big picture of what is the new facility. That's what I'm looking for.
And the cost of the facility we approved 2 months ago, 3
Right.
months ago, am I correct? And we can pull those up, and will you share those in an email to the entire board, please? Mr. Gilbert, if you would assist the team in getting that information. Thank you.
That'd be great, thank you.
Do we
Okay.
need to separate these two job descriptions to vote on them separately?
It would be my preference to keep the job descriptions together. If we could just wait until 7 o'clock and see if that information becomes available, and then we can just keep it on the consent agenda, both items together, and move forward. Thank you.
Or we can vote on it. I mean, I don't know, I'm just curious as to, yeah. All right, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, item K, substitute staffing services. That was pulled. I believe Mr. Denson and Ms. Hensley had thoughts.
Yeah, I have questions more than anything. My first questions was if we know offhand, and I don't know if we know, how long we have actually, I think ESS has been our service. How long have they been our service?
I'll ask Mr. Swartz. 3 years?
Yeah, that was my thought, 3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And there, in talking to teachers and some other thing, this is kind of a critical issue for us. I think everybody knows that, finding substitute teachers, to the point that we're having to use teachers' planning times to fill classrooms and whatnot. My question is, I think we filled at like 70% last year. Do we know the percentage of what we filled last year?
Yes. I'll go back 2 years, it was 69%. They have increased this year to 72%.
Okay. And then my other question is there a way to, we're looking at investing over $1 million over a 5-year contract with this specific company that, they say they're going to up their percentage to 80% or whatever, but I mean, they came up 1% after 2 years. And because I do think this is so critical, like why we're putting all of our eggs in this basket for a 5-year term, considering that, we're having teachers having to cover classroom sizes and whatnot. And I'm reading in here that this was the recommended or the highest recommended. Is this something, it's going to be touchy, we could bring in-house in some way to give incentives in some other way, before we just jump into a 5-year contract with a company that we're sitting at 70% and not getting these, these classrooms with a substitute? I just need the rationale.
Yeah, we believe this is the best opportunity to get as many substitute spots filled as possible. I'll reference the 5-year contract. While it was bid out as a 5-year contract, and then at the end of those 5 years, we would be required to do another RFP, it is a year-to-year annual review. So we can terminate at any time, but we set in yearly reviews each and every year. So there will be a review next year to see where we're at.
Okay, that
so
helps.
yeah, and as far as in-house, that's challenging because that would require human resources to sort of hire more staff to sort of meet the needs of the current substituting. So it's not as easy as just we can go ahead and bring it in-house. There would be a cost associated with that. Currently, right now, ESS has invested for on-site local staff members to support the substitute staffing. This wasn't a light decision. I appreciate the question and okay, how are we proceeding and what was the rationale? They have put some things in place towards the end of the year because this is a monthly conversation for us around the needs because this is such an important topic to our students and our teachers. A couple of things that you may not be aware, they have increased their support from 2 staff members to now 4 staff members that are going to be on site. They actually have done that the last 2 months, and in pulling the report the last 2 months, I had a quick note here. They went from, they are now sitting at 76% over the last month, and over the last 2 months, they're at 75.8%. So we've already realized an improvement. They come to us and they recognize it's not what they wanted. We have a good relationship with them, and the contract is structured in such a way that we realize there's room for improvement. And so that was the reasoning and the rationale for the pricing and the structuring of the pricing.
Mr. Denson, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the review, the annual review that's going to happen, will that review necessitate a vote by this board annually?
No, that's a review with the human resources as well as the input from the principals on how they feel the staffing is going.
Could we, I guess request to the superintendent have that come back before this board for an annual review so that we can see what the progress is of ESS making those goals that they said they're going to make?
I would love to do this, Mr. Denson. I would love to give you a monthly update. A monthly update on our percentage of filling. We can put it in the board's update. And that will keep the board informed as to what's going on. Instead of waiting to the end of the year, you will know the direction in which we're going.
Okay, I want us to at least, be willing to consider that if these goals, if these targets aren't being hit, and that therefore our teachers and our students are, not getting the quality that they should be, I would like us to, consider ending the contract if they're not able to hit these marks. With that being said, I would still like this to keep this off consent for us to consider separately.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Davis.
So my question is, kind of along those same lines, I know that we're looking at their ability to fill the spaces. Do we have any data that you can share with us in terms of what our needs are? Do we need more substitutes now than we've had over the previous years? Is there anything that can give us some trends in terms of how necessary this service is? And how many people do we actually have coming into the district on a substitute basis?
Yeah, good questions. So ESS has over 400 substitutes that when an opening comes open for that day, gets pushed out to them to be able to pick up. And then the on-site team also supports in calling and getting those positions filled. We do have an increase over the last couple of years in the number of substitute opportunities to fill. So it is a large endeavor to meet the needs of the openings that happen for various reasons, sickness, FMLA, so.
Yeah, I remember when we first hired them, when we first signed the contract with them, that information was presented to us at some point to let us know kind of what the vacancies are and what the demand is. And so I'm still more concerned about the impact on the students of the churn in the substitute world. And it's totally different from this contract, I get that. But to you, Dr. Means, Dr. Hooker, it would be great to have a KPI around that or some indicator to let us know what the climate is, or the climate's not a good word either. What is the situation in our schools over time from having substitutes? Does that make sense?
Be glad to give you a monthly update concerning it starting in August.
You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we can provide that.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Evans.
So I'm concerned about substitutes as well, but I also know that, the amount of admin that would take for us to grow our own pool would be unbelievable, especially since we're having hard enough time recruiting certified personnel. So trying to find, Joe Q. Public, who is first off willing to do that job at that particular pay point, is rough enough. And then, in a perfect world, I would love for us to have that pool that we could, that we could grow and that we could do, but we just don't. They're just not there, right? I mean, you're saying 70%, right? And I'm thinking that's a pretty doggone good number, because even 20 years ago when Jesus and I were teaching together at DeKalb Truancy, there were times where there were sick outs, people were just gone, and you just didn't have that number. If we ever get to 90%, then we are doing something super right, and we should be winning awards. So while I understand, the concern about the contract and what it is, we also have to realize just how much we are asking, not only of our admin, but also of the public, to be able to come and do that job. So, when we're taking that vote, let's keep that into consideration, please.
And I do want to commend Mr. Swartz and the HR team. They have been working with ESS on a monthly basis, weekly basis. I see new people coming in for the substitute training. They're coming in. The thing is will they take a job when it's assigned to them or when it's open? So they are doing a great job, and I appreciate ESS going from 2 people being in that department to 4 to help move that along, and we saw results from that. As you see, he said the last 2 months, 75 and 76%. So hopefully we can keep up that trend starting in August.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hooker and fellow board members, for your input and your questions. I wonder too if in that data search that that data expedition that you've been sent on, would it be possible to add some statistics around what those staffing percentages look like in the counties that ESS currently works with? I know that several of those counties included letters of recommendations in the RFP. So perhaps just kind of getting a overall trend and understanding of what this looks like from a state level or even from the counties that work with ESS might be helpful for the board.
That was part of the review process. We asked specifically for counties in Georgia and how they were trending, and ESS was able to provide, and they are showing growth in all, and not all, but in a number of the counties. And we are middle of the pack, so to speak, as far as the counties. There are some counties at 90%, which is a very high goal, but that's where we want to go. And they believe that they have sort of tweaked what they've been doing and changed a few things to be able to meet that. They are also growing. So they now have around 60 counties that have taken this on. And, you know, I can't speak for when we initially brought them on, but my history tells us there was a reason why we did that, was because we just didn't have the capacity or the specialization to hit that number, so we sought that out. And their ability to specialize in this area, we have 4 on-site people dedicated to that. They also have an entire team of marketing and recruiters and sort of HR and legal. They have all of that they get to specialize in this to provide that expertise in this very difficult area of substitute staffing in the midst of the teacher shortage. So it is a challenge. We want to accept the challenge, and we want to continue to grow with it. And it's a regular conversation that we'll have, and we monitor it each month on where those numbers are at and what are we doing to make those changes. Like I said, they have 400 substitutes right now. Their goal is to get up to 700 and hopefully to 1,000 within a couple of years. And so they're putting on a more aggressive recruitment and marketing campaign to increase those numbers, because the more substitute sort of numbers that you have already signed up, then those more opportunities to get the substitutes filled. So,
Thank you so much. Okay, did everyone get their questions answered for this particular item? Do you want to continue to pull it or place it back on the consent agenda?
I'd like to keep it still off consent.
Okay. All right, let's move on to, I believe we were at Q, the school bus purchase? Okay. All right,
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Denson.
Yeah, I am, I guess my first question is if we need to immediately make this purchase, or if we could hold off until the Sustainability Committee has finished making their recommendations. Because at this time, one of the recommendations that's on our agenda that we're working on is to move to fossil fuel-free bus systems. And this is going to be purchasing 12 propane buses along with 3 diesel, and propane and diesel are both fossil fuel. While propane has a slight decrease in emissions, it's minimal. And we're talking about the buses that the children of our children who are in schools right now are going to be using 20 years from now. And so we're thinking about, like, if we're still using fossil fuel emitting buses in 2044, there's no way that we're hitting our sustainability goals that we're talking about in this committee. So yeah, my question to staff is can we wait until we get the recommendations from the Sustainability Committee to make this purchase?
So for clarity, Mr. Denson, you're asking that this purchase be put off at least until February or March? Okay. Yeah, I wanted to kind of provide a little bit of timeline for context.
I appreciate you asking that question, but at this time, we need to replace older buses. And I did ask, I spoke with the team today concerning looking at alternative buses, such as electric buses, others. We were denied a grant to do that. The next grant that comes up may be September, and usually those things take 10 to 12 months or longer. We have to replace our special needs bus. If you look there, we have 3 gasoline buses. I believe I'm correct. I'm going from memory, so I apologize if I miss. But we have an older fleet, and we have to replace these buses. We will be glad to apply because a new electric bus is running $450,000. That's without a grant. So if it's the will of the board for us to wait, we do not get a grant, and you would like for us to purchase a $450,000 bus,
Okay. Are there any-
Yeah, the electric is 370,000, yeah, and then the charging station. I guess I would, what I would like to see us possibly do then is, because I know I'm trying to find the spreadsheet that they provided us with the age of all of our buses and the preferred replacement time. I understand that we might need to buy some for this coming semester. But again, I guess, if we're actually going to take seriously any kind of work from the Sustainability Committee, this is the largest bus purchase that we've made in a few years and that we plan on making for a few years. Yeah, I would just like us to take it seriously. So, if the staff can possibly come back in revision and say, okay, we need to have definitely 4 for this coming semester, but we could hold off on 8 more, I guess I would, maybe that could be a compromise that we could work on. And one other partial question I had on yours, I know that
Hold on, Mr. Denson, hold on just one second. So Mr. Gilbert has been standing there for just a minute, so he may be able to respond to some of what you have before you move on.
Yeah, the bus purchase, actually, even if we order the buses now, we won't get them till next year.
Sure.
So we're trying to kind of get in line, get the orders in to replace those aging buses. I know that they were waiting on the grant to see if we did get money for the electrical buses, but we didn't get that. So this is we were kind of waiting, and now we're kind of playing catch up to replace those older buses. And I believe the gasoline buses were for longer distance field trips. And the thought was we were not buying the diesel buses, but we were trying to make that jump to propane to, again, with the sustainability, going to something that's a little bit better, but not perfect or ideal, but, making that choice, so.
Mr. Gilbert, can I ask real quick, would it be possible to get maybe that list of what is urgently needed replacing and what could possibly wait an additional year before our 7 o'clock meeting? And then that will provide us with enough information.
I'll see if I can get that.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Mr. Denson, did you have more questions?
Yeah, the one other thing is that, since the governor signed the bill allowing flexibility with school transportation, where all transportation doesn't have to be done through school buses, we're now allowed to be able to do transportation with minivans, such like that you can use for people who don't have to have CDLs to drive, so it's much cheaper. Have we thought about maybe investing in that also instead of buying these very expensive larger buses for our field trips and out-of-town trips?
Mr. Denson, who would drive the minivans? Who would drive the minivans? Like, I want to.
You could have a driver, but it wouldn't have to be a CDL driver.
So the teachers would drive the minivans?
I'm not saying the teachers, but it'd be cheaper to get somebody without a CDL license than it would be for a regular license.
Okay.
But also just the cost of fuel for a minivan or such, or a cargo van compared to a school bus is very different. And that's why this legislation actually went through, because schools were asking for flexibility because it's much cheaper to be able to transport students in those smaller vehicles rather than 77-person school buses.
If I can, Mr. Denson, from the conversations that I heard with other districts, there were much smaller districts with 1 or 2 schools who wanted to have the option to have minivans and SUVs to transport small populations of students in a larger rural space so that it was more cost efficient for them with their gas, but with a much smaller population of students, certainly not 12,000. And so I would like to sort of get maybe a broader understanding of where the rationale would come in of transporting 1,200 students on minivans.
Well, thankfully, we're never transporting 1,200 students at once, but the idea is that I'm certain that I'm saying to field trips, we're not transporting 1,200 students. Am I wrong that think that we don't have sometimes trips, small class trips, where we're transporting a small number of students somewhere, but we're having to use a school bus because that's what the state law says?
And I can share with you, majority of the time, if we have a small number of students, we have smaller buses that they're allowed to use for that. For instance, a tennis team, a golf team, they use the smaller buses for that. I can tell you personally, I would be opposed to us purchasing vans and transporting students. Again, the research in other smaller districts, that's why they do that.
Yeah.
All right, so I think where we are now with this particular item is if it's at all possible to get some data on the buses that are needing immediate replacement, that may help with the discussion and vote during the regular business meeting. Are there others who have comments before we move on? Yes, Ms. Hull.
So I would need this information before the vote, so please don't pull it, but I am curious about, can you give us kind of a overview of the safety features in buses? I know way back when I was on a bus, there were no seat belts, and there were a whole lot of things that were just like wrong lasagna. So I know that there has to be some advancement, and I think it would be kind of cool for us to be able to know what the buses look like. So I don't need to know that information to vote, but if we could at some point maybe get that in a board update, if there are seat belts and like cameras and all that kind of good stuff that will help fall in line with some of our other initiatives like safety and those types of things.
We can get that for Friday's update. Ms. Palmer, will you put that down on the list of things for us to have? Thank you.
All right, yes, Dr. Yeager.
I was just going to say that the data around propane buses is that in terms of pollution and asthma causing particulates, they're worse than diesel buses. So I have a really hard time spending $2.3 million on things that are going to poison our kids. So I'll be voting no.
All right. We will now move on to, I hear that this conversation's done. Okay. We will now move on to agenda item 6, financial updates. Mr. Greiner? We are at A, the April FY24 financial report.
Good evening. We're going to jump around in fiscal years this evening, so just stick with me. So we're going to start out at FY24. So you have before you the financials as of the end of April. Total revenues year to date, $191.4 million. Total expenditures, $171.5 million. Fund balance at the end of April, $74.2. As we discussed in the budget hearings, we're still trending down to around $55.5 million. Right now, basically our net every month, our revenue, expenditures exceed our revenues about $7 million. So that would, $7 to $8 million. So if you factor that into the 74, actually, I'm trying to think it's a little bit more than that. So it would trend down to about 55. So it's about $9.5 million difference right now between our revenues and expenditures expected for the last 2 months. So, which is typical of all school districts. Again, this is just the way our revenues operate. We get the majority of our tax revenue October to December, and then our QBE money is monthly, but of course our expenditures are more level as we go throughout the year. So no, again, I think we're trending towards that $55.5 million, somewhere around there, and we'll keep y'all updated on that when we do the May financials, which I should have done. Those should be ready the first of next week, and we'll include those in the board update. So I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all might have on the April financials.
All right, I think we're good on the April financials. We can now move down to Item B, auditing services and financial statement preparation, RFP.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Dr. Hooker and I first started discussing this a couple months ago. We have long used the Department of Accounts and our Department of Audits and Accounts with the state of Georgia. Many districts our size have started switching to an outside audit firm away from that over the years. So we issued an RFP back in April. Malden and Jenkins was the only respondent to that RFP. They do the majority of school districts that are not done by the state of Georgia. Currently, they've worked with 60 school districts in Georgia over the last 3 years. Neighboring districts, they do Barrow, switched to Malden and Jenkins last year, Oconee, Newton, Rockdale. I have also worked with Malden and Jenkins, 2 districts that I served as CFO in. When I got there, they were using Malden and Jenkins, which was Glenn County and Forsyth County. They have a strong reputation in the state. The 3 main reasons we're looking at, recommending making this move to Malden and Jenkins. One is timeliness of the audit. They will have our audit done by December 31st. This past year, we were still working on our audit in February, early March. The other thing is continuity of staff. The state tends to, we've been fortunate here. We have had some of that continuity. I have not seen that in other districts. With Malden and Jenkins, they have a staff that, you do get that continuity of staff, which is huge when you're doing the audit because you're working with the same people year to year. The other thing is the experience they have. They have, experience in our federal programs. One thing that was interesting to Dr. Hooker and I, they also have experience auditing early Head Start and Head Start, which I think is huge. The state definitely has some expertise in that area, but I feel like Malden and Jenkins has more, and they've worked with other districts who have that program, which not many districts in the state have that program, or the ones I've been familiar with. This is the first one. So those are the main reasons. You have the cost before you. It's kind of, compared to Barrow's cost last year, it's very similar. So basically, for the audit that ends in FY24, which would start, probably October, November, the total annual cost would be $77,000, and that would go up to $79,000, $82,000, $84,000, and $87,000. Again, this is like the substitute staffing services. This is a 5-year contract, but we have the option at the end of every year to terminate that contract if we're not satisfied with the services we're receiving. I think our biggest thing on the timeliness, again, this year in February and March, we had the information provided late December. It wasn't finalized by the state until, late February. I think they were into budget season. It's just for our staff, it's just much easier to be finished in December. We can move on, to the budget process. So that's one of the main reasons. But I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Thank you, Mr. Greiner. Are there questions? Yes, Dr. Yeager.
So this is $80,000 going to Atlanta, right? Because this company's based in Atlanta?
They have offices in multiple cities. The office that would serve us, that is correct, Dr. Yeager, is in. They have Albany, Macon, and Marietta, Metro Atlanta as their main 3 offices.
And so there's no option of hiring someone and keeping that salary in Athens to do this work?
No, ma'am. There's just no firms. There's several really good firms in Athens, but none of them they don't do K through 12 school districts. The only firm I know of in Georgia that actually now is doing K through 12 is Malden and Jenkins at this time, other than the State Department of Audits. So.
And if I understood you correctly, we have done this work in-house, or the state does
No,
this
the State Department. In Georgia, you do have the option. You can use the State Department of Audits, or you can use an outside firm. So we have used the State Department of Audits to do this work.
I see.
For many years.
Okay.
I think is our size. The other thing, with the bond issue y'all did a couple years ago, the timeliness of the audit is huge. When you do a bond issue, it affects our credit rating. I will say Moody's and Standard & Poor, who does the bond rating, has learned over the years that Georgia tends to be a little bit slower, but there always have been concerns that, they like to have the audit done by December. It does, ultimately, I think it does affect your credit rating a little bit, but I can't put a number on that. So.
Does anyone else have any? So just real quick. Oh, Ms. Davis?
Okay, so this is the second 5-year contract that we're looking at. Is that kind of a move that we're making, and is there a strategic plan around that? Or, I mean, is it just we're trying to get out of having to do the RFPs so frequently, or what are we going toward?
I think my understanding from talking to Ms. Jackson, what we're trying to do is we do a 5-year, but we have that 1 year
5-year renewable every
renewal
year.
where if we're not happy, we can come back and do another RFP. I think it's the process of doing the RFP over and over if we're satisfied with that work, but we do have that 1 year renewal in there.
And so then by doing these 5-year contracts, that does relieve some of the responsibility or the activities that are happening in the administrative team?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Mainly
Now-
at our Office of Purchasing, which Ms. Jackson does a tremendous job, but it does alleviate some of that work, you know, having to constantly. And again, in this case, I think if we did this every year, the choice is gonna be either the Department of Audits or Malden and Jenkins, unless somebody in another state comes into Georgia to start doing work. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just real quick before we move. Go ahead, Mr. Denson.
I was, just because you brought up our credit rating, I was wondering, what is the credit rating that we have for CCSD?
I knew that question was gonna come up. I will get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
I knew it's either, I'll get it before my goal there's only a couple districts that have, I think it's AA, AAA rating. It's been a while since Gwinnett County and Forsyth County. When I was in Forsyth County, I was fortunate enough, the work had been done before I got there, but we were fortunate to be one of those districts. That would be my goal for Clark County. So.
And then just real quick before we move on, what would be the increase in cost from using the state to using Malden and Jenkins?
That's a great question. Thank you. This past year what we've seen with the Department of Audits is the cost continues to increase. This past year, we did pay $45,000. So there is a gap in the pricing. We just feel like the timeliness, the continuity of staff kind of offsets that. What we typically do is charge that whole amount to our federal programs. What I recommend, what we put in this year's budget was for the general fund to cover roughly $52,000 if we decided to go this way. So that would leave about $25,000 in our federal programs. Now we can change that mix. The federal programs get charged because of the single audit work that's involved in that.
Okay.
Because it is mostly with the audit, when they look at our special education program like they did this past year, and they look at early Head Start, that's where the bulk of the audit work actually ends up being. So.
Okay. And so you're able to offset that cost from the general fund by using, I guess, indirect?
It's similar to indirect.
Okay.
You can basically, they budget in there for an audit cost every year.
Okay.
And I will say the Department of Audits used to be a lot lower than that. They have definitely increased their cost over the years. I think before I used to see where they would do it for 10 to 15,000. They have definitely 45. They went up, I think it was either 10 or 15,000 this past year to do the audit. So.
All right. Other questions before we move on? All right. Thank you so much. I think you're still up there.
I am up here for a while.
FY23 Audit Corrective Action Plan.
Yes, and I apologize for having to bring this back. We discussed this back in April when we had our audit. This is our finding from our after-school program where we used ESSER money. And we allocated too much. We got a letter from the Georgia Department of Education that we just needed a formal board approval of that corrective action plan. This is what was presented back in April, and then each board member has to sign it, and then we will mail that to the Georgia Department of Education. This will close our FY23 audit once this step is done. It's just an additional step. And none of us realized this was we got a clearance letter on our audit, and they said this had to be done as well. So, okay. And I apologize for bringing that back.
Okay. And I have read through this, but if there are other members who needed to read through it, it's there. And Ms. Palmer, just a quick note, we'll need to update the headings. Mr. Evans needs to be Dr. Evans.
That's fine.
Oh, you're okay with that? Okay, well then never mind. We're good. Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, are there any questions about that? Ms. Davis?
No, I want to say thank you, and I think that it's, to me, one of the things that we do in terms of how we exercise our votes is, again, audits are very important in terms of us showing that we are doing the right things in terms of monitoring how we're performing, and we are getting those independent audits. And I don't ever want to see something like this on consent agenda. I think this deserves the recognition that people see when they read the thing and know that, yeah, we had some conversation about this and that we are trying to exercise our responsibilities. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Davis. And again, our goal every year is no findings, and that one, we've already corrected that one. We had it corrected for this at the beginning of this year. So again, that is our goal every year.
All right, thank you so much. And now we are at item D, approval of the FY25 millage rate.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I won't go into a lot of detail on the millage rate. It was tentatively set back on May 9th. We are in compliance with the Georgia Department of Revenue. We've had 3 hearings. We've done the proper advertising. All that's been confirmed with the Tax Commissioner's Office. The last step tonight is just formally approving the millage rate at 18.8 mils. Mr. Pruitt has prepared a resolution that, you know, once that approval is received, we can sign that resolution. We then deliver that to ACC Gov. At their July board meeting, they will adopt that in their meeting, and that will complete our millage rate process for this year.
Okay. All right, thank you. So is the question now to put it on the consent agenda or keep it separate? Okay. They're all separate. Okay, wonderful. All right, and then last item for Mr. Greiner, approval of the FY25 budget.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I'm just going to hit on a couple slides in this. So we won't go through the whole presentation again. Y'all are probably getting tired of seeing the whole presentation. So we're gonna, so what I did last night is come up with, this is everything that's been added since our tentative approval. I thought this was a good way to recap that. So the top 2 items was information we received from the state. So we got the transportation increase, pupil transportation increase through QBE of a little about 1.1 million, which was a pleasant surprise. Safety grant increase was a little bit higher than we originally estimated. We were told it was going to be around it was going to be 45,000. It ended up being a little over 47,000 per school. We actually received an email today verifying that it is that 47,000 per school. The way they're going to do that is, I think I mentioned this last night, we're going to receive that in 12 monthly increments starting in July, and we can use that to cover school resource officer cost. They've expanded the items that can be covered by that. Any of our strategics that y'all recently approved, any of that can be covered by that. So, classified salary increase of $2,500, which we discussed last night. Originally, it was $1,750 after the tentative approval. 1 additional paraprofessional per elementary school, as we discussed last night. 2 mental health counselors at the high school level, and then 4 mental health counselors at the middle school level. And then a supply stipend of $250 per teacher. We will work, if that's approved tonight, on how to administer that, and we'll get that information out. And then we did a media supply increase based on our conversations last night of $1,000 per school. So we would just add that to their operating budget for this upcoming year. The beginning fund balance, as I mentioned, we should be around 55.5 million. So I'm going to just kind of skip all the way down to what all those items added in. Sorry, I'm going too. So this is the overall impact of those items I just mentioned. Total estimated revenues of a little over 235 million. Total expenditures 241.7 million. Leaves us, using 6.6 million of our fund balance, which still leaves us with 48.9 million in fund balance. So a little over 20%. And I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all might have on that. Again, the goal tonight would be to finalize the budget, and then this will be what we carry forward into FY25.
Okay, are there questions, Dr. Yeager?
I just want to say thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I meant to start my presentation with that. I appreciate the conversations we've had this year. This is how it's truly supposed to work. So I do appreciate all the input this year.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Wow, you're good.
Thank you.
It took 3 meetings for that to happen, so we appreciate your patience. Thank you, Mr. Greiner.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you are off the hook. Item 7, policy updates. So we have, let's see, looking at A, we've got a couple of policies for board review. I'll just name out the policies, and if you would like to discuss, you can just raise your hand. So we've got board policy IDAA, Career Technical and CTAE program. We're good? Okay. And then policy JBCD, transfer and withdrawals. Okay. So I think those two policies are now good to go to public comment. Thank you, Ms. Bones. All right. Items B, policies for approval.
And here I just did want to point out that the first 7 have been out for public comment and we received none. In item 8, there's a little explanation in there, and I have provided you with a hard copy to review the changes, and Mr. Swartz is here to answer any questions with respect to that one.
Item 8 is student rec. Which item would that be?
GBRH.
Oh, GBR. Okay. All right. Okay, so I guess I'll just start with the first 7 items, and if anyone has any comments before they get voted on, you can just raise your hand. GAF, staff-student relations. GBD, professional personnel hiring. GBO, professional personnel resignation. GBT, professional publishing. GAMA, drug-free workplace. GBKA, professional personnel layoff. And JR, student records. Okay, so the one item that does have some notations to it is GBRH, and I know I did get a couple of questions from Dr. Gant online, and she will be calling in at 7, so that definitely will be discussed at 7. If you want to hold off until then to have discussions, that's fine, but if you want to do it now, I'm okay with that too. Any thoughts, questions? Good? Okay. All right, so we will go ahead and we will clump those 7 together. It seems like there weren't any issues. And then GBRH, we will have to have a separate conversation about that. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we are moving on to some policies for discussion. GARHB, paid parental leave. I believe a board member asked for that to be placed on the agenda, but I did not get any emails or any correspondence about what specifically they wanted to discuss about it, so.
And actually, this one is separate simply because it will not be effective until July 1st. And so we wanted a separate vote with that clarification.
Okay.
And when you get to that, you'll need to, I'll remind you, if I'm still alive and awake, to put in the motion effective July 1st.
Effective July 1st, gotcha. Thank you, yes, that would be wonderful. Okay, so then now we're moving on to item D, future policies for review from the board. Ms. Bones, I know that GBRH is currently on the docket for approval, but I know that at least one board member did want to go ahead and approve it for this meeting, but then place it back on agenda for future discussion. So if you could place it on the August agenda, that would be wonderful. And other board members, if you do have comments about that policy, it'd be wonderful to get that in writing first, and then we can sort of compile all of our thoughts before we have a discussion on it in August. All right. Are there other policies for future considerations that you would like to? Yes.
So I think I mentioned last month the policy around recess.
Recess, that's right. I forgot about that. So I know that Dr. Hooker did some homework on that, and perhaps you can give us an update on what you found.
Sure. Dr. Yeager, you're asking about middle school recess, and I spoke to all the principals, and they do not have a formal middle school recess period. And all 4, and Mr. Evans, you can attest at BHL, there's none. And speaking to the other principals, at Hillsman, they leave lunch and they walk around and go to their classrooms. There's no formal thing that says an actual recess, 20 minutes, we go outside and play. So can you tell me what school or have the parent or parents have concerns about what schools that deal with recess?
I think it was also the unstructured time that's in the policy. Let me pull the policy and I can let you know what the
Okay.
issues are. I didn't prepare, I'll get prepared for the next time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so now we've got two policies for future discussion, GBRH and unstructured play. I don't remember what, what the name of that policy is, but Ms. Bonet, you got me. All right, thank you. Okay, now let's move on to item 8, information items and board community reports. Starting with Early Head Start Policy Council meeting minutes and reports. Mr. Denson?
Yeah, and these minutes are back from, I think, the March-April kind of cycle. So some of this, the April cycle. So some of this is like the hiring for the new East Side coordinator position, some steps that we've already taken, actually. So I'll just use this time to appreciate that we placed on consent the cost of living increases and the other asks from EHS and HS, and I can tell you that staff and the parents on this committee are doing good work.
Thank you. And now we've got the Athens Community Career Academy report. Mr. Evans?
So they had their final meeting in May, and I already reported on that. They are breaking until August. They will be returning in August, and we will be a part of that group.
Wonderful, thank you. And I know that at one point there was conversation about having the Career Academy come to our meetings to sort of give a little update of what's happening monthly. I don't know if that's something that the board still wants to entertain asking the Career Academy to do.
In a conversation with Mr. Molina at that meeting, he said that he would love to do that because he wants to make sure that we are fully informed. So that way, when big ticket items come up again, we're able to make good policy decisions. So yeah.
All right, other thoughts on that, Dr. Hooker?
And again, just reiterating what Dr. Evans said, I had a similar conversation with him, so he wants to be a part of this, so we can add him to the agenda and he can speak on a monthly basis. All right?
Wonderful. I think that'd be an amazing change. Thank you so much. Yes, Dr. Yeager.
So can I follow up on the recess thing? I just found it.
Oh, yes.
Sorry. It's IEDA. And currently, we say that middle school principals are authorized to determine the length, frequency, timing, and location of unstructured breaks at each school. And you just told me they have no unstructured break time? Or they have no recess?
No recess.
Okay.
Because when we spoke, you were saying recess. So
Well, yeah, sorry, I misspoke. It's the unstructured break time, and then there's a sentence that says participation in unstructured break time may be withheld for disciplinary reasons. And I have heard that there are schools where unstructured break time is being withheld for disciplinary reasons.
Okay.
And that doesn't seem quite right, since most disciplinary issues are related to kids not having attention spans, and unstructured break time is important for processing some of that. But that's the issue, so just to be clear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yeager, for pulling that policy and clarifying. Okay, we were at the item C, Community Oversight Committee report. And I know I went in your place, Dr. Evans. There was a lot of discussion on Clark Middle and where the building was and whether teachers would be ready to move in the fall, and it looked like everything was good to go and in place. There was some conversation about the Cedar Shoals renovations and where they are in that process and why some of those renovations had to be done. For example, increasing the size of the cafeteria. It was not built originally to house the number of students that are currently at Cedar Shoals, so that's one of the issues that they're clearing up. in addition to some other structural issues. And then lastly, they talked a lot about the Sustainability Committee. And so I'm not sure why, but a lot of the conversation was around the cost of, the electronic buses versus, EV buses versus gas and propane buses, and where would that cost come from? And just sort of having the Sustainability Committee do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of the background research of what these costs look like and how they're paid for, and just sort of like a really robust understanding for the district on how to move forward with some of the policy recommendations once they are determined, so that there's not as much confusion about how these things may get implemented. So I think that was the ask from that committee when they were talking about the Sustainability Committee. So just those updates. And I think that's all that I had for community oversight. Dr. Evans, did you want to add anything? Okay. And then we've got item D, Sustainability Committee. Dr. Yeager?
So a day or two before we were supposed to meet in our June meeting last week, we were told we were not allowed to meet during the summer. And so we have not met since I last reported to the committee, and the committee's not going to be able to meet until August, which none of us expected. We all expected to kind of work through the summer. So I'm a little concerned about the timeline, I'll be honest with you. A few of us have, each of the subcommittees has their working orders, and I guess some members of some of the subcommittees will be able to keep working during the summer. I plan to do my piece, but I think we're all a little stunned that we weren't going to be allowed to meet at all during the summer, so
Okay.
we're on hold.
Okay. And does anyone want to ask any questions about that? Because I have a question and wanted to let others speak first. No? So yeah, was that because of teacher time, protecting teacher time? What was the reason?
Teacher time, students, and we have district office personnel who are not on 240 contract in doing that. That was the thing. That was the reasoning.
Okay.
Because teachers' contract is 190.
Okay.
And then students, and we're not, with the students, an issue may occur there, but we have also district personnel who are not working or may be taking vacation time during those times.
Okay. So then is perhaps a way to mediate this problem is to extend the time for the sustainability to convene. So then that would change the scope of work. The document that was created that had the timeline for everything, and that would mean that some modifications would need to be made and brought back to the board. Would you like to take the lead on that, Dr. Yeager, or have further discussion?
So I think you met with the two chairs of the committee?
I have not yet met with them.
Oh, okay.
We
I
are
thought that was
trying
going
to
to
get
happen last
together.
week. Okay.
Yeah.
I would, when you meet with them, I would speak with them about if that would help them.
Okay. Okay.
It wouldn't be up to me. It
Okay.
would be up to them.
Okay. I can definitely add that to our agenda. Yes, we were supposed to meet last week, but one of the members had family in town and it didn't work out. So we're trying to get together next week. So that's helpful that it was canceled, so we can add that to the agenda. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Yeager, for that update. All right. I think we are ready to move on to item 9, unless there's some burning questions, comments that anyone has on our agenda items. Great. Okay, so now we will vote to move to executive session to discuss, sorry, give me 1 second here. To discuss or deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent. All right. Can I get a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hensley. All in favor of going to executive session?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. We will see you at 7. It is. Y'all ready?
Ma'am.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for coming. We are going to go ahead and get started on our June 13th work session. And if you don't mind, Dr. Hooker, doing roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Heidi Hensley.
Here.
Ms. Claudia Butt. Ms. Linda Davis.
Here.
Dr. Patricia Yeager.
Here.
Mr. Tim Denton.
Here.
Dr. Mumby Anderson.
Here.
Dr. Lakeisha Gant. Ms. Nicole Hull. And Mr. Mark Evans.
Here.
Ms. Palmer and Mr. Pruitt, we're going to go ahead and call Dr. Gant in. Will we need to do roll call again when she comes on the line, or are we good? Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Okay, we will move on to item 3, board. Sorry, I am on the wrong agenda. Pardon me. Okay, we will move on to item 3, silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance. If we could take a few moments for silent meditation, and then we will all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to the funnest part of our board meetings, our recognitions and awards. Dr. Moore?
Good evening, Dr. Hooker, Dr. Anderson, board members. We have just one short recognition tonight from our Human Resources Division. It is with great pride and excitement that we recognize the 14 outstanding educators who have successfully completed the inaugural CCSD Aspiring Leader Program and the 7 assistant principals who completed the CCSD Aspiring Principal Program and are part of our first graduating cohort. These rigorous programs were designed to cultivate and develop CCSD's next generation of school leaders, equipping them with the skills and knowledge necessary to lead our schools with excellence and dedication. Each of these exceptional educators spent the past year engaging in comprehensive training, capstone projects, and reflective practices, all aimed at enhancing their leadership capacities. Throughout the process, they have all demonstrated exceptional commitment and a deep passion for education. Tonight, we celebrate their achievement and look forward to the positive impact they will undoubtedly have in their current and future roles within our district and the transformative leadership they will bring to our schools. Please join me in congratulating the inaugural cohorts of the CCSD Aspiring Leader and Aspiring Principal Program. As I call their name, I'm going to ask that they come forward, and they've already received a lovely plaque. So we will have them stand there and then ask you all to come out and stand with them for a picture. First, our aspiring leaders, Caroline Alums, Tamika Brown, Katija Douglas, Christian Edwards, Gary Grant, Alon Hammond, Ginger Lehman, Shanna McGettigan, Dana Morris, Melissa Paul, Alexis Scott, Molly Sherman-Schubach, Rachel Temples, and Nathan Reinscheld. So let's congratulate this first group of aspiring leaders. And we'll ask our aspiring principals to join them as well. Christina Lurch Batson, Charlotte Lester, Melissa Ellard, Summer Smith, Bylan Swift, Eric Blake, and Sandra Scott. And let's give these future principals, present assistant principals, a hand as well. Now at this time, I'll ask our board to come up and fill in behind them and on the ends so we can get a picture that we'll one day look back on and say, I remember when. I will say, as you all are coming up, I had the honor of sitting in on the capstones for each of you, and I was extremely impressed with the work you'd put in and the information you shared, and I learned an awful lot, so thank you for that. Scott, can you get them all in, or do we need to squish? Miss Davis, get over here. We're going to make you get right next to Mr. Reinscheld. Mr. Reinscheld, pull her over. Keep going. Keep going. There you go. Now squish just a little over here. Perfect. All right, now look at Scott.
Over here on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Now that's a nice group. Thank you very much. You all may be seated, and congratulations once again to these educators. We look forward to the coming school year's cohorts completing the program and making their mark on the district as well. And I believe that cohort has already been selected, and there were quite a few applicants. You can find more information about our Aspiring Leaders program on our website under the Human Resources section, and I invite you to visit that. Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. I'll turn it back over to you for any board recognitions you may have.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, everyone. What a wonderful accomplishment. I don't think we have any board recognitions unless there are members of the board who would like to speak. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Moore, for that, and that was a wonderful end to the school year. All right, we will now move on to public comment, item 5, and we do have a few names listed for public comment, and I'll just go ahead and read out a little script here for some instruction according to policy BCBI. Each individual speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. At this point, remarks must be concluded. No speaker will indulge in personal attacks, and all comments are to be addressed directly to the Board of Education. To protect the privacy of students, speakers shall refrain from identifying specific students by name. No individual or group shall be retaliated against in any manner for speaking during public participation. Personal concerns may be addressed in writing to the superintendent and the president of the Board of Education. Written copies of comments may be provided to the board. At a board meeting, board members will not respond to questions or comments from the public. The district may respond to public input as needed or appropriately within 10 working days. And lastly, the use of obscene, profane, vulgar, physically threatening, or abusive remarks will not be allowed. Loud and boisterous conduct or comments by speakers or members of the audience are also not allowed. And I just wanted to also make clear that if anyone wants to leave and no longer wishes to participate in the meetings, you're welcome to leave at any time. Don't feel uncomfortable. All right. We will now move to public comment. Our first public comment is Angelique Jarrett.
I would like to take a moment to thank all the board members and leadership, Dr. Anderson, Dr. Hooker, for your time and efforts. I'm Angelique Jarrett, and I live in Clark County. I'm also a member of Unitarian Universalist of Athens. A few days ago, I received an email from UUFA about a request from the Economic Justice Coalition, one of our 3 justice partners, to speak for Clark County schools. The request grabbed my attention, though that is not the only reason that brings me here. The primary reason takes me back to my days as an undergrad at UGA in the early 2000s. I spent much of my summer 2003 riding Athens Transit to learn about and understand the communities that surrounded the university. I was disturbed and disheartened by the poverty I saw and the lack of equity that existed and still exists in accessing resources that children require to live, grow, and thrive during their childhood, from birth to 18 years of age. Another reason is that I registered my child in a Clark County school last November. I was impressed by the diligence and the commitment that I saw in all the individuals who supported the school community. And I would like to take a few moments of your time to speak for those individuals, the maintenance, office, and cafeteria staff, among many others who support my child. The cost of living continues to increase, with some basic necessities, such as food and shelter, becoming more expensive than before, even for those individuals who work full-time. Many maintenance, office, cafeteria, and other employees are insufficiently paid to live in Athens. As numbers guide me in understanding the world around me, I looked at some stats that I found on my app, designed by a software engineer specializing in webcams. It was estimated that for a family of 4, the monthly cost was roughly $4,000, and for a single person, the monthly cost was $1,881. I'm gonna get to my point. I believe in supporting all staff who help my child become the best version of himself. I was informed the current proposed budget reflects a raise for the classified staff that's under what the teachers are getting paid, and I think the right thing to do is to provide the same as teachers. And I also think teachers who shape minds of the future need to be given a stipend for providing materials. Thank you for listening to my concerns and for giving me your time today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Broderick Flanagan.
Good evening, everyone. Broderick Flanagan. I'm the current Executive Director with Economic Justice Coalition. I spoke to you last night at the millage rate hearing and the budget hearing about the similar concerns, and it sounds like you all are looking at ways to include the $2,500 permanent raise for classified staff, and I'm just here to reiterate the importance of that. You know, the cost of living is continuing to rise, and this is one of the ways that we help families become sustainable and for all, you know, workers to have family-sustaining wages. It's very important because those things affect things like school performance, some of the youth development issues that we're seeing in our community, like having access to after-school programs or being able to afford daycare. So it's very important that we think about those lower paid employees, and not just this year in this budget, because I know sustainability is a concern, but just thinking about how we do that moving forward. I was once a substitute teacher and a parapro for this very district for about 6 or 7 years. And around that time, as a substitute teacher, I was making about a little over $8 an hour. But back then, housing was, for a 2-bedroom apartment, was about $550 a month or $600 a month, you know. And so we know housing costs are going up and other costs are going up. So we want to make sure we continue to think about those lower paid staff members. And I think it was Dr. King who was talking about in the hospitals, the janitors in the hospital are just as important as the doctors, because if the janitors don't do their job, the patients get sick, there are germs everywhere. And I would echo those same sentiments related to our janitors within the school system, our cafeteria workers who make sure our students are fed, the bus drivers, and other classified staff who make our schools function the way that they do. So please, every year within the budget, I would like to see us have a shift where we are really thinking about these families who are struggling. Thank you. Also, I wanted to speak to in support of the youth development program with for the basketball program that's going on. I think that's vitally important as well. for students to have those outlets and that emotional support. If that is a consideration that you're thinking about tonight, I want to support keeping that program going. I know we also have issues with our literacy and some of the students that are falling behind. There are many programs going on within the community to start to address that. And I serve on one of the LSGTs, actually. And so there are many challenges within our district, and I appreciate you all for the work that you do and the consideration that you take when thinking about these difficult issues. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Ernest Elder.
Good evening. I think I put an impact report on each one of y'all desks. My name is Ernest Elder, and I'm the Executive Director of Community and Youth Development Organization and the Director of the Athens Tutorial Program. We have an invested interest in improvement in the growth and development of the students in the Clark County School District. Our organization serves around 380 to 400 students through our Youth Development District Basketball League, which includes 4th and 5th grade girls and boys as well as cheerleaders. However, our program is about much more than basketball. We use athletics as a platform to teach essential life skills and character development principles, such as respect, honesty, leadership, positive attitude, communication, dependability, courage, integrity, and etiquette. To reinforce these values, we have printed over 1,500 book bag tags featuring these principles and distributed them to all of the students in the Clark County School District. So all of the students is wearing book bag tags on their book bags with those principles on them. The coaches, they dedicated 30 minutes and before or after practice to discuss these principles with the students, ensuring they understand and apply them to their daily lives. Our goal is to address specific challenges consistently with measures that impact our community through feedback from students, parents, teachers, and principals. According to the principals we've spoken to, over 75% of the students involved in our program have shown improvement in attendance, better behavior, increased participation in class, and improved relationships with their parents. Additionally, their reading and their math scores have improved tremendously as well. We are committed to making a lasting difference in the lives of these young student athletes, helping them to develop the skills and character they need to succeed both on and off the court. So we believe that if we are empowered specifically by the district, that we can do our job that we're trying to do even better. Thanks, and have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, up next is Dr. Gary Birch.
Good evening. First of all, let me say thank God for Clark County Public Schools. I have 3 children who went first grade through 12th, and it began them on a productive, good life. And I know that all of you have contributed, and what you're contributing today as Board of Education members is critically important. I know it isn't easy, so thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Secondly, my youngest son was a basketball player at Clark Central, and that's when I started following Ernest Elder, who just spoke. And I'm glad about 3 years ago, he called me and said he was planning this program that would help build character, promote the kind of values that we all think are important to our community. And knowing Ernest and hearing how passionate he was, I began to go to the sessions. And I most enjoyed going to that gym right over here a few hundred yards away and seeing what was happening. Seeing is believing. seeing the families come in there with their boys and girls, seeing them engage one another, and seeing these young people work together and show the kind of values that Ernest is talking about, and values and character that are so critical to our country and our community today. It takes a lot to build a community. It takes a lot to build a country. And what Ernest is doing with this organization is an important part. And I'm so glad he's linked up with the Clark County School District to make it all that it can be and to contribute in so many ways. So thank you all. And again, and maybe most importantly, thank you for what you do. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, we have Stephanie Johnson. Stephanie Johnson. Oh.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephanie Johnson, and I live in Clark County, and I'm also a product of the Clark County School District. When I go out and people say, well, how do you know this and how do you know that? I am very confident when I scream, I went to public school. So I thank you all as well. I wanted to stand here before you tonight and talk to you about the benefits of the Community Youth Development Organization. I've known Ernest Elder since I was in high school. We actually grew up together. And when he first told me about his organization, I wasn't able to participate. I had another commitment on Saturday morning. But let me tell you, I saw plenty of pictures on social media about the full gymnasium, the parents, the kids, the children. Fast forward to this year, or last year, I was able to attend 1 or 2 games, and thankfully, I was able to join the board this year and contribute to the board with the skill set that I have. I also attended many games, and when I say it's probably the first time in a long time that I've attended a public event that reminded me of my own childhood. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you my age. Well, you have to do the math, but I graduated in 1991. And so I remember when I was in high school, middle school and high school, there was just a fierce basketball program at Cedar Shoals and kind of a little bit at Clark Central. But during that time, my mom used to take my brother and I to Madison County, Cedar Shoals, Clark Central, and the gym would be packed with people, and there would be no fights. There would be no problems, no guns, no violence. There would be families. And when I attended the basketball games on a regular basis this year, that's what I saw. I saw families. I saw moms and dads celebrating their children. I saw children playing with pride. I saw children not scoring baskets, but still taking it for the team and working very hard until the buzzer ended. And I saw just the camaraderie of a full gymnasium, and most importantly, there were no fights. At least on the games that I attended, no fights, no problems, no quarrels, nothing. It was just like the 90s, and that's a really good feeling. It was a safe space, the gymnasium, and I just want to stand here before you and support that program and the continued partnership with the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, up next we have Danikia Gray. I hope I pronounced that right.
That's the story of my life, but that's great. Good evening. I am Danica Gray, the head coach for Clark Middle sixth grade girls basketball. But before I tell you about my experience as a coach, I must let you know that I am a social worker. I've worked with the incarcerated for over 17 years, so it is personal to me when I work with such a very delicate as well as vulnerable population. Working at Clark Middle as a coach volunteering, meaning that heart has to be in it, it's necessary to say that the age group, of course, is in stage 4 of Erickson's theory, you know, the psychosocial theory, which basically is industry versus inferiority. A child learning new skills, so that's what they're doing, while productively navigating stages they feel useful, develop a sense of self-worth. So during this stage, it's very critical that we pour into our youth to ensure that they will navigate life successfully. However, due to the lack of support, that group will also feel worthless. And by doing that, it's basically out of sight, out of mind. So we're working with the sixth grade girls. It meant a lot because out of the 15 girls that I had, 4 of them had never seen their father. Mind you, incarceration was the reason, and they didn't know that's where I came from. So it was personal to me. So in order for me to bridge that gap, it was necessary for me to create a safe space, a space where they can truly be themselves. They're going through body changes. They don't need all the extra anxiety trying to fit in. So you have to be that bridge. You have to be that village for these children. And so while coaching them, the first thing we always did was I brought a mirror every practice. They had to give themselves a compliment within the mirror. And at the end of practice, they had to turn to their neighbor and give a compliment. And then we learned how to give and receive compliments. It is necessary. And while coaching them, I always informed them it was deeper than basketball. I didn't care if they lost every game, because if I teach you to win a game and fail in life, I didn't do anything right for you. So my goal to them was to teach them life skills, coping skills. And if they did not bring their shoes or clothes to practice, it was an absence, because your mother or father should not bring your clothes. That's called teaching them responsibilities. And so it is necessary that if we combine those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders together, I feel the 6th graders need a coach just for them to help them with life skills, to give them a safe space throughout the process, because mixing them and not giving them a warm handoff will only create disasters, because a lot of them do not know how to apply coping skills with life stressors. I'm so thankful to be here, and if it's ever anything that I can do to help, I'm willing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We have Nikita Bishop.
Okay, hi, my name is Nikita Bishop. This is my daughter, Jamira McCummins. I'm gonna give her a minute of my time. Okay, so my concern is combining the 6th, 7th, and 8th grader, because she was a 6th grader, and they have emotional mix everywhere. And I feel like if most of those 6th graders get on the team with the 7th and 8th graders, and they steal a 7th or 8th grader spot, they're gonna get picked on. Either way, if they make the team, they're gonna get picked on if they don't get enough playing time. And it was a lot going on with the 6th graders. Like when they scrimmaged against the 7th and 8th graders, the 8th graders got mad because they beat them and was picking on them and messing with them. And it's just a lot that goes on with the 6th graders, because they're new to a school, they're trying to learn themselves, and most of them are just starting to learn their hormones, and mixing them with people that are more advanced than them, I think will cause a lot of chaos and have them all over the place. And I just don't want a lot of the kids to get bullied and get picked on for being on the team with upperclassmen. That's why I feel like they separate the freshmen from the sophomores and juniors, but here she go.
My name is Jamira McCummins, and I played 6th grade basketball for Clark Middle, and I know how it feels to be picked on for not being the best and play the best as upperclassmen. 6th grade basketball should be for new middle schoolers to learn new fundamentals of basketball and skills. If a 6th grader who is not as great as older people on their team, they would be picked on for not being as good, and lots of people's feelings would get hurt if they are not put on the same team as the older students. As 6th graders, they can relate because they are new to the school and are meeting new people. It was like we were a family and we supported each other and we built a bond that we can now take to 7th and 8th grade basketball. So I think we should keep the program for 6th grade basketball. Thank you.
Could you tell us your name again?
Jamira McCommons.
Thank you, Jamira. All right. Up next, we have Zenobia Allen. And apologies, Nikita, for getting your names pronounced wrong. All right. Is Zenobia Allen here? Okay. Next up, we have board. Oh, okay.
Good evening. I think that was a typo. It should have been Karen Allen, not Zenobia. Zenobia is my daughter. But I'm here to talk about the CYDO League. My name is Karen Allen, and I transitioned recently this past year from a 5th grade classroom teacher to EIP 4th and 5th grade teacher. This is my 27th year in the district. I've been involved with sports since the age of 11 as a player, as a coach, with basketball, softball, Little League, all the way to high school, and also track. I am currently the boys and girls basketball coach at Fowler Drive. Some things I have to say about the CYDO League is that their mission statement has been accomplished with my players, dedicated to motivate, inspire, positive fun, and excite children all at a young age, help build leadership skills, self-esteem, good sportsmanship, health, teamwork, and foundational skills. They have 12 character traits that I have instilled in my students that came from CYDO. It has helped my players become team players. We've developed a bond on and off the court, and it has helped give my players the sportsmanlike conduct that they need to help them out in the future, especially as they transition to middle school. The 12 character traits has encouraged myself to instill positive motivational traits in my players on and off the court. My Fowler motto for my athletes and what they have learned is that you are a student. Student comes before athlete, and athletic excellence always transfers to academic excellence. If you push, you'll ruin it. Pause, pray, and be patient. Get ready, stay ready. A change is in the atmosphere. Life is about to get really beautiful for you. As much time as you give to a game, give double that to your academics and your education. The CYDO League has gave me some connections with some knowledgeable people. Will Jones, who's been the referee, Jennifer Westlake, who's a teacher and a coach from Gaines, and a coach, Chris Wyatt, who was my former camper at Memorial Summer Park. In my conclusion, all of these foundational skills and community connections of CYDO has set the tone for players when they are learning how to handle and juggle academics, sportsmanship, and team sports. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Karen Allen, right? Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. And now we have Bortez Sims. Mr. Sims?
Good evening, everyone. Last name is wrong. I'm Bartez Gillespie, and I was the scorekeeper over there for CYDO right here in this gymnasium. And it's just an honor and a wonderful thing to see the kids transition from where they were to where they're headed, meaning that some of them had some minor tempers, to say, in the 5th grade, and watching them come to a 6th grader and all that be gone just in a year's time, just from an athletic, academic, school standpoint, from coaches staying on them, from people pushing them to do the right thing, because sports is going to drive you to do the right thing. Sometimes some of the kids, the sports are all they have. Being known, being geared towards something, that's what they're longing for. That's what they're doing. And if we keep them in something, we keep them out of something. So we are hoping to keep them on the right track, keep them doing what it is that they need to be doing. And like the young lady got up and said about the sixth graders being in transition, I think it's very imperative that we do keep them kind of separated or all the way separated, just for the simple fact they're not, they haven't reached that level of maturity of the 7th and 8th graders yet. So yeah, getting picked on would make them feel some type of way. It would make them not want to come to school, would make them not want to do their work just from being pointed out or singled out from doing things, from being on a team full of 7th and 8th graders and not playing or not getting enough playing time or whatever the case may be. So I think that's very imperative that we do that. And the league has also been a good bridge in the community, watching everyone come out, watching everyone just cheer on family members, cheer on their kids, catching up on old times and doing things really the old-fashioned way, without anything happening, any hiccups or anything like that. So I think it's a great thing. I think it's real nice for the kids. I think they absolutely love it. They look forward for something for them to do as well as something for the parents to do. And if you all come out and watch a game, or if you all have been out and watched the game, then you know how electrifying the atmosphere is, and makes you just feel at home and makes you feel like you did something and make you feel accomplished. So I think it's very imperative that we just keep that going and going on the right track that it's on now. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Bartez Gillespie, right? Okay, gotcha. Thank you so much. And last we have Shay Gambrell. Shay? Or Miss Gambrell? Okay. Okay, well, that wraps up our public comment for the night then. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and speaking on behalf of the topics that you spoke out on. We will now move forward to item 6, adoption of the agenda. And yes, please feel free, if you are ready to leave, you are more than welcome to. Don't feel some type of way. All right, item number 6, adoption of the agenda as presented.
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hensley. All in favor of adopting the agenda as presented?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, let's move on to item 7, Superintendent's report. Dr. Hooker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to start by thanking those of you who participated in the budget process, staff, building leaders, our board, and members of the community who've taken time to share their thoughts. I also like to share with the board some information I have concerning how we've adjusted our salaries to meet the needs of our community. For instance, the starting salaries for paraprofessionals have increased 49% since the year of 2022 up until this date. For bus drivers, it has increased 29%. For nutrition workers, nutrition assistants, it has increased 69%. And for our custodial staff over the past 2 years, it has increased 58%. And if we compare our paraprofessional wages compared to the metro area, the only district that outperformed us and paid for our paraprofessionals will be APS. This is comparison with Cobb, Marietta, DeKalb, and Decatur City Schools. So we have made those increases to our assist our paraprofessionals and our classified personnel. Also, a first-year teacher in 2024 school year makes more than a veteran teacher made in 2021 school year. That's a person with 10 years of experience. A beginning teacher now in Clark County, a first-year teacher, is making more than a veteran teacher of 10 years of experience made back in 2022. So I commend our board for moving forth and meeting the needs for our classified employees. Congratulations to our first cohort of aspiring leaders. This was a great group, and I look forward to seeing where their careers take them within our district. We look forward to starting the second cohort this year. This week, Human Resource hosted their first new hire orientation for the coming year, and Transportation hosted a job fair. We still have openings in a variety of areas, so I encourage members of our community to take a look at the CCSD openings on our website and apply for those that are in the area of interest. I like to wish a happy Father's Day to all of those who will be celebrating this Sunday. Many thanks to all the fathers who serve in our district. Finally, I would like to remind everyone that next Wednesday, June the 19th, CCSD School District will be closed in observance of Juneteenth. Juneteenth marks the day in 1865 when the federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, to take control of the state and to ensure that all enslaved people were freed. This arrival came at a full 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation and marked the official end of slavery in our country. Juneteenth was declared a federal holiday in 2021. That concludes my comments for today.
Thank you, Dr. Hooker. Okay, we will now move to our consent agenda. And these were items that were discussed at our work session and were decided to stay bundled in one vote. I don't think that I need to call them out individually. So if we're ready for a motion.
I make a motion for us to pass the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Denson, seconded by Dr. Yeager. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Our consent agenda has passed. And now these are the items for individual action. We'll start with item A, the April FY24 financial report. The floor is open for discussion, or a motion, sorry. The floor is open for a motion.
I move that we accept the April fiscal year 24 financial report.
Second.
All right, that motion was made by Dr. Yeager, seconded by Ms. Davis. The floor is open for discussion. All right, Ms. Davis? Okay. All right, so we are ready for a vote for the FY24, the April FY24 financial report. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Item B, personnel. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move we accept the personnel.
Second.
Item B.
Okay. All right, motion made by Ms. Hensley, seconded by Mr. Denson. Floor is open for discussion. Okay, having none, we're ready for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We are now at item C, the Personnel Board Addendum. Is there a motion on?
I make a motion for us to accept the Personnel Board addendum.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Denson, seconded by Dr. Yeager. Floor is open for discussion.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes, Dr. Gant.
Is there an attachment for the addendum? I'm unable to see the addendum.
There's not an attachment, ma'am.
There's not an attachment?
No, there is no attachment.
Okay, is there a document somewhere that we're voting on under C?
Ms. Palmer, do you want to put maybe a note for?
I apologize. The information was handed out during our executive session.
Yeah, Dr. Gant, I don't think we can put anything in the in Assembly, as it was a conversation that was had and then decided on in executive session.
Okay, so that normally is not
I can
on the
add that.
agenda?
Okay, she's
I
adding
can
it.
add it.
Would you add
She's
a little
adding
note?
it.
I'm going to add it now.
Okay, all right. Dr. Gant, so we'll go ahead and skip that item, and then we'll come back to it. We'll give Ms. Palmer a chance to add a note in the login portion of Assembly. Okay, let's move to item D, job descriptions. So these are for the communications director and the health clinic coordinator. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we pass D, job descriptions.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Denson, seconded by Ms. Hensley. The floor is open for discussion. Okay, having none, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor of approving the job descriptions as presented?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay. Are there any opposed? I didn't see your hand raised, Ms.
Oh, I'm
Davis. Would
sorry,
you
this
like
is-
to abstain?
No, I won't, I don't have a reason to abstain, I'll just oppose because I haven't been able to look at the update.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got 6. We have 6 in favor and 1 opposed for job descriptions, Ms. Palmer. Okay, we will move to item E, the school bus purchase for 24-25 school year.
I'll make a motion that we table this till our next regular voting meeting so that we can get the information requested.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second or a substitute motion?
I'll second the table.
All right, motion is made to table this item E, school bus purchase for 24-25 until our April work session and August. Our August work session and board meeting. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Denson and a second by Dr. Yeager. All right, can we get a vote?
What, do we have discussion now?
Oh, sorry. Floor is open for discussion. Ms. Davis.
So my question is, what is the impact of this delay?
I've been emailed the information concerning this, and I just sent it to you guys, but I'll read it to you as well. The bus ordering priorities for tonight's meeting: 3 special ed needs buses to supplement existing fleet, which are 2010 models. These new buses are propane, 3 gas buses for longer field trips because propane buses cannot travel long distance, 9 propane buses to replace older diesel buses, transportation. They're willing to attend the August bus meeting to give you further information.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, the Transportation Division is willing to?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there is a motion on the floor. Given the information from Dr. Hooker, are we ready for a vote or to table, or would you like further discussion? Yes, Mr. Evans.
Well, I'm concerned that we have 3 buses that are for our special needs community, and those students need this transportation. So I'm not, while I understand what you're saying and I agree with it, I also think that we got to get these kids to school. And so I while I don't, yeah, I just don't understand why we just can't vote this through and then we go and we do better. Because right now we've got buses that are aged and not working correctly, from my understanding. And so, we're going to be picking and choosing which routes get picked, which routes get buses. And, we have an equity issue here in this county. And I'm afraid that the students that will get shafted the most by this will be the ones who historically get shafted. And so while I agree with your sentiment and I want us to move to EV as quickly as we possibly can, we also got to get kids to school starting August 1st. So that's my thing.
Yes, Mr. Denson?
My understanding is that, again, like what was said, was that this purchase is for about a year out. So I see that if we're going to vote on this in August instead of June, that hopefully we can still hit a year, but this is not going to affect students starting August 1st from how this is being explained to me on these purchases. And I agree, like, I mean, I wish that, we had started working on this transition a long time ago, but this is the largest bus purchase that I can find record of that we've purchased. And so therefore, we are very much committing ourselves to a fossil fuel technology for a 20-year lifespan of these buses. And right now, we do have other options. There's actually vendors who have come out and said that they will pay for the capital cost of putting in electric charging stations for us. And then we simply get leased and paid back with the savings that we get from using the charging station. And while these electric buses are more expensive, the research has shown that you have a direct savings in fuel and maintenance costs of about $100,000 per bus, and indirect savings within climate and student health and community health of $247,000 per bus. Those are savings that you do not utilize during propane. And honestly, the cost of having propane buses 20 years from now is going to be actually even greater than it is right now on the community, and also possibly on the cost of propane if we are moving away from that as a society and a world. And so I feel that we'll be able to make that this 60 days is something that we'll be able to absorb in a delay if we went ahead and made this decision in August instead of today.
And I would like to share with you, Mr. Denson, I did share an email with the board, and you will see we skipped ordering buses last year, waiting on the grant to hear from the grant concerning EV buses. That's why you have a larger order this year than you had in the past. And again, when we're talking about purchasing EV buses, we also have to think about many of our routes are long routes. The research on EV buses are 135 miles to a charge, and the costs for the stations and things of that nature that are involved in that. I agree with Mr. Evans in that we do need these new buses. This will be 2 years if we're delaying this, waiting on, and then if we apply for a grant, doesn't mean that we're going to get the grant. So we'll wait another 18 months to hear.
I'm not suggesting that we necessarily wait for another grant. Although I also, within this, I can only find the grants that we've applied for the propane buses. I can't find a grant that's in the agenda for electric, for EV.
I believe this took place before you came on the board, but we'll make sure I know we did apply for a grant.
Okay.
I signed off on that grant.
Okay, because I know on the agenda attachments, there is a FY22 and FY23 grant that we sent in for propane buses, though, not for electric.
We also applied for, and I'll have Dr. Askew remind me to have Dr. Askew share that information at our next meeting as well.
And we've definitely had, staff's been really helpful on the sustainability committee to kind of do this research. And I mean, you're correct with the 135-mile range, and our average range for routes is 95 miles with our maximum range of 121 miles for the longest route that we have currently. So right now, what the technology is good enough to actually meet our demands at this time. But yeah, again, right now, all I'm asking for is that we get information provided to us, and that we make this decision in August and not wait 18 months or anything.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to table this until August, and the district seems to be okay with the timeline of waiting until August. So to avoid belaboring this discussion without any further information other than what we had at the work session, can we just vote on whether we want to table this, and then if a substitute motion, if another motion comes forward, we can open the floor back up for conversation. All right, so there's a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor of tabling this discussion till August? Raise your hand. Okay. All right, we have 6 in favor of tabling and 1
nay.
Nay. Sorry, I forgot to ask for it. Okay. Substitute staffing services, and this would be the conversation that we had at our work session around the ESS contract for 5 years with the option to automatically renew every year for the following 4. I need a motion. I need a motion.
I make a motion to pass and accept the substitute staffing services contract.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Hensley and seconded by Mr. Evans. The floor is open for discussion. Ms. Hensley, would you like to start since you made the motion?
Yeah, I just,
there was a motion to approve the substitute staffing services, Dr. Gant.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had questions answered. I like that we can renew this within a year. That was a really big question. You throw out a 5-year contract and that gets a little iffy. But I do hope that we get reports on this. I think this is such a critical piece of the work we're doing. So as long as we can get some updates and feedback as to how it's working, then I think, it is the best option we have right now for a problem that's really big.
All right, other thoughts? Ms. Davis?
I'm sorry. Well, yeah, my thought was, we typically approve all contracts over $50,000, is that right? And this one is going to be over $50,000, so we should see it every year because it gets paid every year. So I don't think that's going to be a problem in us seeing that. I'm more interested in the information that the district is collecting around our need for substitutes and how we're performing against the contract is certainly important, but more importantly, how our students' needs being met when we do not have those substitutes. So I'm interested in more of some information that helps us understand if our model is working in terms of having substitutes, or is there something else we should be doing?
Okay, others? Mr. Denson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will support this, and actually, one of the things I do commend staff on the creation of the contract to give incentives for ESS to increase their percentage. And I think that's a pretty thoughtful way of doing that. I do still have concerns that have already been addressed, and I also want to bring up that. Remind us that on the disparity study that we had on contracts and purchasing, one of the recommendations was for us to get away from doing these multi-year contracts because it was contributing to our racial disparity that we had when we're doing contracts. And so I just want to remind us of that. We have multiple multi-year contracts on this agenda. I know we're still working through the outcomes that we're going to kind of try to enact from the disparity study, but that was a key component of that, so I just want to remind us of that.
All right, others?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Gant.
Yes, whoops.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah, I have some concerns about the multi-year contract of 5 years. I was able to listen in the discussion for the work session, and at this time will not be supporting this particular motion. I think if it were a way that it came before the board, I did hear the discussion around it coming back, not coming back to the board, but the district determining that each year after an evaluation. But, ultimately, it's still, agreeing to this $50,000 per year for 5 years. And so it would be one thing if it were like 1 year renewable or 2 year renewable by the actual board. But I don't think I heard that. I don't think that was my understanding. And so at this time, I won't be supporting that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gant. Others? Yes, Mr. Pruitt.
If I may, just to clarify, if you look at item 7, starting at the bottom of page 7 of the contract, it is for 5 years, but as the law requires for most multi-year contracts, the board, the district, acting through the board, has the option to terminate it at the end of each calendar year.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. If I heard Dr. Gant right, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the issue with both Dr. Gant and Mr. Denson is that the board does not have a say in that process after this initial approval. So it looks like it would be exclusively up to the district on whether it would be renewed every year for that $250,000 each year.
Well, it would take board action to terminate it. So,
Okay.
I mean, as the things would normally go, you have to give at least 30 days notice. So somewhere in the fall of any year when things aren't going well, Dr. Hooker would recommend to you that you non-renew the contract or terminate the contract.
Okay. All right. Are there follow-up questions to Mr. Pruitt's clarification?
Yes, again, we have a policy that says the board approves all expenditures over $50,000, and so even if it's a renewable contract, would we not see this renewal? Because if the board has to approve expenditures, then the president can't sign without board vote, right?
Right, but that's what you'd be doing if you approve this contract. And then, as required by OCGA 20-2-506, you have the option to cancel it at the end of each calendar year.
But failing that option to cancel, then you're saying that the board doesn't see this contract approval, the approval of that $50,000 every year anymore, unless it's...
No, you've already approved it unless you exercise your right to non-renew it.
Why do we have never mind, that's another question for another day, but that's a new policy I'll be bringing up for review. Because I thought that we had to approve any expenditure over $50,000.
So I think the clarifying point there is that we are currently approving the expenditure over $50,000, and having approved that expenditure at tonight's meeting potentially of over $50,000, which is our responsibility per policy, that moving forward, it would simply be a cancellation of that contract each year, not a renewal of that contract because it's already been approved for this meeting. So I think that that's where the sticking point is for the board, is that it's not brought forward to the board to approve each year, that it's an option simply to cancel. That's the sticking point that we're at.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to argue that one way or the other. I was just clarifying everybody's understanding on that is how it would work.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. Okay, so there is a motion, I believe, on the floor. Yes. Motion was made by Ms. Hensley and seconded by Mr. Evans. So we can go ahead and make a vote and see where it lands. Okay. All in favor of approving the staffing services contract for ESS, raise your hand high.
Aye.
Okay. It looks like that motion passes. All opposed?
Aye.
All right, so that motion passes 4-3. All right, let's move to auditing services and financial statement preparation, RFP. And as a reminder, this is to move from our state auditing service to this new company, Malden and Jenkins LLC.
I move that we accept the auditing services RFP.
Second.
All right, motion made by Dr. Yeager, seconded by Ms. Hensley. The floor is open for discussion. Questions, comments? All right, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor of approving the contract for Malden and Jenkins?
Aye.
Dog, I have a question.
All opposed?
Never
You
mind.
have a question?
It's okay. I missed that opportunity. Go ahead.
Okay. So I have 6 in favor. Dr. Gant, did you vote?
Opposed.
Okay. So I have 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Is it another 5-year? Just a point of clarification, is it another 5-year contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Did you vote, Ms. Davis?
Okay, now we are at item I, approval of the FY25 millage rate of 18.8 to continue from previous year of 18.8.
Madam Chair, I think did we skip
Oops,
H?
Did I skip H? What is that?
The FY23
Oh, the
audit.
corrective action plan. I saw audit and just skipped it. All right, we are
I'll make
now.
a motion to pass that.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Denson, second by Ms. Hensley. Floor is open. All right, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor of approving the auditing corrective action plan?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Ms. Davis, can you please clarify if you're voting yay or nay on this?
I apologize. I'm going to abstain on this one.
Okay, do you have a reason for abstaining?
I am uninformed.
Okay. All right, so we have 4 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention. Ms. Palmer. Dr. Gant. Right? Did I get that wrong?
That was the previous.
That was the previous one. So we have 5 yeses and 1 abstention. For the millage rate.
No.
For the auditing.
For the
For the
auditing
auditing corrective action plan.
Yeah. H.
For item H. Okay, I think we're all clear now. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, we are now at item I, approval of the FY25 millage rate.
I make a motion that we approve the millage rate for FY25.
I'll second.
All right, that motion is made by Ms. Ms. Hensley, seconded by Ms. Davis. Floor is open. All right, barring any conversations or discussions, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor of the FY25 millage rate being 18.8, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. All right, we are at J, approval of the FY25 budget.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed FY25 budget.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Denson, seconded by Dr. Yeager. Floor is open. Yes, Ms. Davis?
I just want to thank the district for listening to the needs of the community and actually meeting those needs. I'm very excited about this. I didn't have any hope that it would actually happen, but you have proven me wrong. So thank you very much for making this really a community and our employees' budget. So thank you.
All right, other comments, questions? Yes, Mr. Evans?
I would like to thank the board, actually. We did a lot of hard work outside of here to make sure that we got community input. We went and talked to our stakeholders. We listened to our building leaders. And I just want to commend you all for a job well done. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Mr. Denson?
Yeah, I'll echo what everybody said. I definitely think the board did good. I think you, Madam Chair, led us through a good system along with CFO Griner and Superintendent Hooker. I think this is a very good budgeting. I would say probably one of the best systems that in the state going for a school district. And definitely want to thank the community for reaching out to us and coming out and speaking and encouraging us to really make, I think, a great budget that does bring up, the classified and certified both up to with a decent raise. And I also want to even go with past boards because I know, as Dr. Hooker pointed out, going back to 2022, really looking at some of those increases and some of those positions that need to be increased, over a 40% increase since 2022. That is big, and I think that shows that not just this board, but previous boards saw a need and responded to it. And I look forward to this body continuing to respond to those needs.
Right. Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. I do want to give a special shout out to, and this is not saying that other members did more than others in advocating or looking for really great ways to negotiate with the school district. But Mr. Denson, I think that you put some recommendations forward that were unique and we hadn't previously thought of. And also Dr. Gant was a very strong advocate for the pay increases for our classified staff. And so I'd like to thank her for her leadership and her commitment to maintaining the argument that the classified staff increases be equal to those of certified staff. So just a kind of little bit of a special shout out, but also thank you so much, board members. Thank you so much, school district. Thank you so much, Dr. Hooker. Everybody, this was just a really wonderful process. For the 4 years that I've been on this board working through this process, this was absolutely the most cooperative and engaging budget development process. So thank you so much, Dr. Hooker, and particularly Mr. Greiner and his staff. All right, I think we're ready for a vote. Okay. All in favor of approving the FY25 budget?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have a unanimous pass for the FY25 budget. Go team. All right. We are now at item K, policies for approval. We've got 7 policies that were bundled to approve collectively. Dr. Gant, I don't think you participated in that conversation. Are you okay with us doing that, or would you like any of these items pulled for individual discussion?
Can you hear me?
Hold on.
Oops, wrong phone.
Okay. Yes, if possible, I had some questions about GBT. That's the professional publishing. From my understanding, that language, if a staff person or intellectual property, so if they develop something, then automatically they give up those rights. And I would like to see something a little bit different, or us to talk about that a little bit more. I am open to this being a future conversation, but I know one of the things we do when we hire a person over the district, the superintendent, that is one of the things that that they have rights to the things that they produce. I'm not saying that should be the case for everyone, but something about the language there, I'm wondering if it could be more of a process or a case-by-case decision. And I remember Mr. Pruitt saying the last time, I think I asked a question about this the last time, and he said something, maybe that it was law or it was typical that's the case. But if possible, I would ask, if it is the case, I would ask to vote on that separately, and that is policy GBT.
Okay. So I guess then what we can do is, just to move this forward, is to pull that from our bundled approval, GBT, and we can just discuss that separately, if other board members would like to weigh in. Okay, so now we've got JR, GAF, GAMA, GBD, GBKA, and GBO up for a vote.
Make a motion that we accept the policies for approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Hensley, seconded collectively by 2 people.
You can have it.
All right, we'll let Mr. Evans have it. All right, floor is open for discussion. All right, barring none, we can go ahead and vote for those 6 policies. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Now we are at Board Policy JBRH, Professional Personnel Leaves and Absences. I believe, Dr. Gant, you asked for this to be pulled and voted for separately, or it might have been Mr. Denson, I'm not sure. Do either of you want to start the conversation?
We need a motion first, ma'am.
Oh, we need a motion first, I'm sorry.
Make a motion that we accept policy GBRH.
Okay. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. That motion's been made by Ms. Hensley, seconded by Mr. Evans. Floor is open.
One of the things that I thought would be helpful, I know that there were 2 notes made by Dr. Hooker and staff, and it looks like those things have to be approved by July, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, July 1st.
Okay, and so there are some other areas that I would love the support and feedback from teachers and from staff members as it relates to the amount of sick leave in Section A. Also there are some areas in Section B, as well as in C, with the 0 to 19 people that have 0 to 19 days. Right now they get $0. And most times, from my understanding, this impacts our classified staff. And then just some areas under D, with regards to the number of days that people have to, in advance, people have to submit personal leave. So for instance, in the event that it's a non-medical urgent situation or some type of other extenuating situation, then it puts our colleagues possibly in violation of this particular policy. And so, and then I had some questions around Section M, about whether 235 and 240-day employees, do they also earn sick leave, or is, once you transition to that, do you just, is it sick leave, and then this is speaking more to their vacation leave? And so also at the time that I brought this up, I wanted to us to discuss a little bit more about the possibility of a sick leave bank, as well as a education leave option, which is something that the University System of Georgia offers. And so I don't think I've seen anything in the board update, but I may have very well missed any like replies or any way that the district has addressed that. But if we have to approve this tonight so that it'll be, I guess, in compliance with the calendar of our teachers or the contract of our teachers, I would ask then that we place it back under the policies for future consideration for either July or August, and also get feedback from our teacher advisory board and staff as well.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gant. Mr. Denson?
If I can get clarification, I believe that this is not the one that we have to pass by July 1st. That's the next item that we'll be voting on?
I think that's right, but there also is a correction in here that, and Dan may be able to explain this better than I can.
That's correct. The paid parental leave is the one that is the July 1st date. However, there is a section here, Section E, that many of these are, all these edits are corrections and updates and were misplaced in certain areas. And so we've had a great team to review this. Pushing this back, we had a teacher come to us with an issue that she had been here six years, and she had only earned 3 personal days. And so investigating that issue, because we have a July 1st date in policy, we always went off of July 1st. Well, when do we hire most of our teachers and staff and their employment starts? They start at the end of July. So they, in essence, missed that year. So through that investigation, we wanted to rectify that, because the spirit of this policy is to have them earn that personal day at that 5th year, as opposed to waiting. They missed that first year, then they had to have a whole nother year to count to year 1. So she was looking forward to next year based off of this, and we want to make that correct for all employees, so that then we can, come August 1st, put in that date, and then that would be helpful for everybody, including that. So that's the reasoning for the August 1st move from July 1st to August 1st, and approving it would allow us to do that so that we can get it in for this year.
Okay, I really, that's very important clarification. Thank you for that. I will also say that a lot of the points that Dr. Gant brought up, including no payout amount for 0 to 19 days, definitely the idea of the sick bank, which I've had some teachers come to me also, and staff come to me saying that would be helpful for them. I would love for us to be able to consider those. So I wonder if Dr. Gant would be open to, or if just the board's open to, us going ahead and passing this so that we can have that important date change, but then going ahead and slating this for board review again. I know I keep throwing this back at staff for board review. I feel like they were going to review it, but I think that's probably the best option.
Okay. Ms. Davis, do you have a question or? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, your light was on, so I didn't want to pass you by. Okay, gotcha. All right, so we've got a couple options here on the floor, and I guess we can just get a temperature of the board to see how you all feel. So pass GBRH tonight so that the staff starting in August 1 have that effective August 1 date, and then place this back on the agenda in August for discussion with the district. I think part of this cycle of putting this policy back to the district is that there's not a lot of clarity from us as a board around how we want the district to move forward with the changes that we're asking for. I know that Dr. Gant has asked for specific changes, or at least a review by board members of how they feel about some of the changes that she's recommended, but that's pretty much where we end. So I think maybe perhaps a good way to move forward, we heard what Dr. Gant was proposing today for some of the things that she would like to see reflected on this policy. So perhaps, Dr. Gant, if you could put that in writing, share that with the board, we can have a robust discussion about each of those items in our August meeting so that the district at least has an idea of what changes they would like for us to see. Otherwise, we're just going to keep sending this back to the district. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. So we'll do that. Dr. Gant, if I have to remind you, I am happy to do that. That we just kind of have this, maybe just some bullet items in an email, and then in August we just kind of know succinctly how to discuss this. Okay. All right, so there is a motion on the floor. Ms. Henson, seconded by Mr. Davis. Can we go ahead and vote? All in favor of approving policy JBRH?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we've got unanimous approval. All right, we are at M, item M, paid parental leave, and this is the one that does need to be approved by July 1st.
Yes, and in the motion need to stay effective July 1st
And then-
because we don't want to pre-implement it. That's the effect. This is just to match our policy to a state law change. The state law changes its effective date is July 1st, so our effective date needs to be July 1st.
Okay. All right, I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the paid parental leave effective July 1st,
Second.
2024.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Evans and seconded by Dr. Yeager. Floor is open. Any questions, comments? Okay, we have got a vote ready. All in favor of approving policy GARHB, paid parental leave?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. And just as a reminder, JBRH will go back to the district for further discussion, and then there's also the unstructured play policy that was discussed at the work session. All right, I think we are ready for item 10.
No, ma'am.
Oh, no, we're not.
We need to go back to...
What? Oh, yes. Okay, Personnel Board Addendum. Dr. Gant, did you have an opportunity to review?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So then we need a motion on the floor.
I move that we approve the Personnel Board Report Addendum.
Okay.
I second.
All right, motion made by Dr. Yeager, seconded by Ms. Hensley. Discussion? We can't have a discussion. So let's go ahead and get it. Yes, Dr. Gant?
Yes, I know no specific discussion, but I just wanted to give context for my vote. I know I was not able to attend executive session, and this is my, and I know this with the hiring process and timeline, it doesn't always add up, but this is my first time seeing the list. I have a couple of specific questions and general concerns, and I think had I been able to sort of talk through some of those, my vote may have been different at this time, but given the grouping of all of this, this entire list together, at this time, I won't be voting in favor of the list.
Okay. All right, other thoughts? Okay. All right, we're ready for a vote. All in favor of approving item C, personnel addendum?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, we've got 5 in favor and 2 opposed. That motion passes. Okay, I think we're ready for 10, unless am I missing anything, Mr. Evans?
Didn't we pull one out of the recommended action? Did we have a discussion about that already? There was something about when a teacher makes something. Did we talk about that? Did I?
Yes, personal, if writing's personal property or something.
Yeah. Dr.
Intellectual property?
Oh, intellectual property, okay. Let's see, where is it?
That was pulled out the bond.
Yeah, it is tabled.
It was, and we did not have a vote. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that. Sorry, y'all, just give me a second to find it.
Did you say we tabled?
Oh, we tabled it. I thought it was tabled.
Intellectual property, I don't think that was, well, there was not a vote to table it. We can certainly make a vote to table it if you'd like.
I'll make a motion to table.
I think that's right. They separated it out, but then just forgot to come back to it.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor to table that policy, and I don't have it in front of me, so I don't. Policy GBT on intellectual property by Mr. Denson and seconded by Dr. Yeager. The floor is open for discussion. Okay, so barring any discussion, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of tabling intellectual property policy?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. That item has been tabled for our August meeting. Okay, did I forget anything else? All right. Item 10. I need a motion. Ms. Davis, second.
I move that we, am I seconding? I didn't get the motion.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion made by Ms. Davis, seconded by Mr. Evans. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. We'll see you in August.